showtime. He started it up. All right, let me call the Planning Commission meeting for January 15th to order. We have 3 items on the agenda. Before we get to those, we need to go through the other 4. Oh boy, just growing leaps and bounds. Before we get to those items, we have the roll call.
Chair Harrison.
Present.
Vice Chair Burbaker.
Here.
Secretary Timmons. Here. Alexander Golovitz is absent, and Rachel Lockett.
Do we have any minutes to approve? Seems like we
Yes.
You do. You've got minutes from August 21st, 2025.
have a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from August.
I second.
Okay, if there's no discussion, I guess, do we need a roll call on that?
You can aye.
Anybody opposed to approving the minutes?
No.
They're passed 3-0. Okay, consent calendar. We have no consent calendar items. Public comment period. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the commission on an item that is not on the agenda. You would have 3 minutes to discuss, present something to us. Is there anyone here wishing to address the commission on something that is not on the agenda? Do we have anybody on the phone? Nope, nobody online?
If you're online and you'd like to speak on an item that's not on the agenda, please signal by raising your virtual hand. Seeing none.
Okay, then we'll move on from public forum to item number 1, which is held over from previous meetings. It's PLN 25-087 Chevron Food Mart Beer and Wine Sales. It's a public hearing to consider a conditional use permit for wine and beer sales at the Chevron gas station on Hilltop. And is there a staff report?
Yes, Assistant Planner Pete Severum here is going to present on the holdover item for the Chevron Food Mart Beer and Wine Sales. Go ahead, Pete.
All right, thank you for the introduction. This is a recap presentation of the project that was previously presented in August. So this site is a 1.5 acre site next to Hilltop Mall. There is an existing Chevron gas station with a convenience market. Surrounded by the gas station, there are residences, a church, other small-scale retail, and a fire station. The zoning for this site is CM5 for Commercial Mixed Use Activity Center, and the general plan designation is High Intensity Mixed Use. Other adjacent zoning are residential in PA and RM1, as well as PCI, which is where the fire station is. The proposal from the applicant is to add a type 20 alcohol license to the convenience market at the gas station. This would be beer and wine only, and there would be no on-site consumption. This would be purely retail sales. The proposed hours of alcohol sales are 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week. And as highlighted in the red area, there would be 4 existing refrigerators that will be converted to display alcohol, as well as the new display gondola, which would make up less than 5% of floor area as required in the code. The only exterior improvement proposed are to add 2 bicycle parking stalls. Staff's recommendation is to add omega-shaped bicycle racks as illustrated here in the presentation. The operational logistics for the alcohol sales would include lead training, which is provided by the California Alcoholic Beverage Control. There would be electronic ID verification at the register every time someone buys alcohol. There would be signage displaying the permitted hours of alcohol sales, as well as interior and exterior security camera with a 2-week retrieval function. In the Richmond Municipal Code, there is a distance requirement of at least 600 feet from other liquor stores and convenience markets. There are none nearby. And at least 600 feet away from schools, recreational centers, and public parks. 900 feet away, there is the Summit Tamalpais Public Schools and Aspire Academy, which serve grades 6 to 12. The municipal code doesn't distinguish between age groups, it's just schools in general, and nevertheless, this site meets the distance requirements. As for the clarification of the hours, the existing hours of store operation starts at 5:30 a.m. in the morning and goes all the way to midnight. The proposed hours of alcohol sales would be from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And to better align with the hours of alcohol sales, the hours of stores operation would end at 10 p.m. rather than midnight. Prior to the previous meeting in August, we received one comment letter from the Hilltop Village Neighborhood Councils raising concerns about the project. There was a public hearing held back in August, which raised more concerns regarding proximity to schools, the hours of operations, and loitering. And thus, the Planning Commission decided to defer the item and directed the applicant to do additional community outreach. The applicant hosted a community meeting on September 10th of 2025. It was attended by the applicant, the owner, and one representative of the Hilltop Village HOA. The primary concerns raised at that meeting were potential increase in loitering and the clarification of the hours of operation. The applicant was directed to submit a security and operations plan, which is attached to your package. Okay. The proposed security plans would include maintaining an employee outside the store, which would be, they would be there to keep a lookout for any loitering and monitoring the parking lot during nighttime. And additionally, to prevent the sale of alcohol outside the proposed hours, the applicant is also proposing to place movable plastic barriers in front of the alcohol display so that clients would not be able to access alcohol outside of those hours. The applicant also proposes a backpack program so that students will be instructed to place backpacks in a designated area while inside the store. The staff requested the interested parties to provide comments by September 26, and no comments were received. Staff received 3 comments in October, and as attached in Exhibit E, there were 3 comments which were submitted in opposition to the project.
The staff report is missing half the pages.
The police department were also contacted regarding this application. They stated that this site is not associated with any significant calls of service or any public safety concerns. This is not a high crime area. They also support the proposed hours of alcohol sale, which is 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week. This project is consistent with the land use classification under the general plan. It would reduce long distance trips. There would be no on-site consumption of alcohol, and this would reduce the community impacts associated with alcohol sales late in the night by ending alcohol sales at 10 p.m. There are no concerns in the neighborhood created by the approval of this CUP. The census tract is not overly concentrated with alcohol licenses and is not a high crime district. The site meets the current parking requirements, and additionally, 2 bicycle parking spaces would be added to meet the general plan policy that would encourage a variety of travel modes. There are no existing problems in this neighborhood since it's not a high crime area that would be exacerbated by the sale of alcoholic beverages. The site meets the distance requirements in the code, and additionally, to minimize community impacts, the conditional approval also prohibits the sale of small-scale products that's associated with on-site consumption. There are no improvements that would interfere with any kind of vehicular or pedestrian circulation along the public right-of-way. And it would not affect the visual quality of the surrounding area. In fact, the conditions would prohibit visible advertisements of alcoholic beverages. The census tract where the site is located does not have an over-concentration of alcoholic licenses and is once again not in a high crime district. The recommended action from staff is to adopt the attached resolution 2503, thus approving this project. And just a reminder that this action is subject to appeal, and the next body would be City Council. Are there any questions or comments?
Questions from commission? No. Well, let me open the public hearing then. I think we're ready. So I guess the first action would be, under the public hearing, the applicant could present, if they wish, their project to the commission. They are not obligated to, but you have this opportunity to do so. If not, then
Hi, good evening, sir. So we already improve every day. Now we have we order some new TV screen for my security system. When we're standing on my cash register, so we can see on the outside who's standing or not standing. That's we can do it. Because some people say you can hire the security. Security is so expensive for us. It's $6,000 per month, and we can't afford that one. We can do like a log too to my door. If somebody comes, so we can open door by myself and give the beer. Otherwise, we have to lock the door too. That's we can do it. That's we have to do because if we don't sell beer, my property tax is so expensive. We have to pay like $80,000 for property tax, and we don't sell beer, wine, cigarettes. So how can we pay the money? Day by day, the business going down on Richmond side too. So we have request to approve the license so we can pay my bill too. Day by day, my business going down. Everybody wants cigarettes, beer, they buy gas, they buy burrito, drinks, but now we lose too many customers. Every day we lose 30 customers. Now we don't have the cigarettes too. So how can we pay my bills? And we have zero no loitering people outside, no homeless, no crime. When we sell beer, we have to check the IDs, everything. But you guys think about for us too. How can we pay my bill? Day by day, we are so hard. Like every day, 20 people means we lose like $200 to $400. If somebody buy beer, they don't beer, they go out of on the freeway Chevron, they buy gas over there and beer too. And they're my regular customer and nobody want to come back. So please do something please for us. And we gave you surety, we have to do my best. That's it. Thank you.
thank you. Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the project? Anyone online to speak in opposition? Appears not. All right, then I'm going to close the public hearing and ask what commission wishes to do. Do you would to approve the resolution? And if so, I'm ready for a motion. I don't think we have too much more discussion.
I'm ready to make a motion.
That's the motion right there.
Yeah, I move that the planning commission approve conditionally the resolution 25-03 to allow for beer and wine sales with the conditions at the Chevron Food Mart.
Second.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
I'll
a
take
call
roll.
vote.
Chair Harrison,
Yes.
Vice Chair Burbaker,
Yes.
Secretary Timmons.
Yes.
Okay, the item is approved. And the appeal period is until when on this?
The appeal period would be 10 days from
10
today's
days,
date.
so roughly the 25th of January. And if anyone can appeal this decision to the city council within the next 10 bids, I think it's 10 calendar days, isn't it? So then we'll go from here to the commissioner, council, or this is the final action?
Tonight would be the final action of approval, and if it was appealed, it would go to City
Otherwise,
Council.
this is it. Okay, thank you. Okay, we're ready to move on to item 2. PLN 24-358, proposed rezoning to add L Landmark Overlay District to the John Haley Studio House. The staff report, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. This evening, we're being joined by Michelle Morse, our senior planner, who will present on this evening's item regarding the landmark overlay designation.
Good evening, Chair Harrison and Commissioners. Okay. My name is Michelle Morse, Senior Planner, Long Range Planner for Richmond. I'm also the Historic Preservation Commission Staff Liaison. Providing an overview of the landmark designation and zoning map amendment rezoning for 771 Ocean Avenue, previously the residence and studio of John Haley. The property owner, Joy Tahan Reddle, and her representative and architectural historian, Caitlin Hibma, are here, and Ms. Hibma will give remarks after my presentation. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution and make the recommendation for the City Council to approve the rezoning and addition of a landmark overlay district for the John Haley Studio and House at 771 Ocean Avenue. That's in Point Richmond. This presentation will include a very brief review of the project and the site background. It'll briefly describe the HPC, Historic Preservation Commission's recommendation. It'll provide the criteria and explanation for the landmark overlay district and reiterate our recommendation to the Planning Commission and next steps. As you can see on the maps here, and as detailed in the staff report, the project site is located at 771 Ocean Avenue along the shoreline in the Point Richmond Historic District and has an enviable view of Richmond shoreline along the San Francisco Bay. The studio house for John Haley was owned and occupied by him and his wife, Monica. John Haley was a significant and influential figure in Richmond, the Bay Area, and the California art world. John and Monica were the original owners of the studio and the house, and it was built in 1932. The studio depicts the typical form and design of a Second Bay tradition style of architecture in both the original portion of the residence, built in around 1930, and in the addition to the home in 1949. The studio house is being nominated for its architectural merit. I should say, HPC recommends a landmark designation and nomination for its architectural merit and association with Haley, who also taught at UC Berkeley. He also utilized the studio for his art practice. Haley's art and teaching while at UC Berkeley, along with his peers and colleagues at the art department, generated a style that became known as the Berkeley School, which was characterized by a unique treatment of space and use of colors. The Historic Preservation Commission recommended at their study session on August 4th, 2025, that the Planning Commission and City Council approve the proposed rezoning and designate the property as a landmark overlay district, which is a fancy way of turning it into a landmark and putting it on the Richmond Historic Register. So the applicant's California Department of Parks and Recreation primary record form and their project statement give details on how the Haley Studio meets 5 of the 6 findings for a landmark designation. So I've listed the criteria here, and I'll give you a brief reason for each of them, except for number 3. Doesn't quite meet number 3. So for number 1, John Haley lived in this home from 1932 to 1991, where he practiced art and was an important part of Point Richmond's resident artists and writers, UC Berkeley faculty and others, and the studio also contributes to the architecture of the built environment in Point Richmond. For criteria 2, Haley is locally and nationally known and regarded in modern art circles. For number 4, skipping to 4, the house and its later living room addition in 1949 is an example of Second Bay tradition architectural style, and the design uses varied massing in the building envelope that work with the downslope and irregular terrain. For number 5, architectural historian wrote on that DPR form, the original designer is unknown. However, the 1949 edition, this is a paraphrase, was designed by pioneering Chinese-American modernist architect Roger Lee. And Lee was responsible for designing over 100 buildings in the Bay Area, and this is one of only a few that are in Richmond known to be designed by him. And number 6, the property at 771 Ocean Avenue meets criteria 1, 2, 4, and 5. For number 3, it doesn't appear to meet and be significant under criterion 3, which reads, it reflects significant geographical patterns, including those associated with different eras of settlement and growth, particular transportation modes, or distinctive examples of park or community planning. It's a single-family home in a residential area and doesn't represent a broader trend in geographical growth, transportation modes, or community planning. However, to meet the findings for this landmark designation, you only need to meet any of the criteria, and this meets most. And this brings us to the recommended action again. The Planning Commission is tasked with deciding whether it will recommend this proposal to the City Council for approval. City staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt the resolution, which is attachment 1, that recommends the City Council to approve the proposed rezoning to add a landmark overlay district to the RL1 base zoning district to the John Haley Studio House located at 771 Ocean Avenue for the purpose of listing the property on the Richmond Historic Register. Thank you. And if it pleases the commission, the applicant's representative, Caitlin Himba, is here to make her remarks and show you some pictures.
Thank you. Let me open the public hearing then, and if the applicant's representative would like to speak to us, that'd be great.
Yeah, go right ahead. It's on.
Hello. I'm Caitlin Hibma. I am a cultural historic resources consultant. I'm also the vice chair of the Historic Preservation Commission, so it's nice to be here and to see our equal number on the Planning Commission side. I've recused myself from this case since I prepared the documentation, and I apologize for the wonky formatting here. It didn't look like this on my computer quite. Excuse me. The property owners, Joy and David, are also here tonight. And the intent of nominating the house to the Richmond Register is really just to honor the history of the site and the legacy of John Haley, and to hopefully, you know, when you put it on the register, it ensures some protections under CEQA. So in the future, they hope to have those in place just to make sure that good things happen to this house. The HPC saw this in August and made the recommendations that Michelle described to you. So I'm going to try not to rehash that too much and just kind of show you some beautiful pictures. These houses this house was really an epicenter for Haley's work and that of his colleagues. There's actually two houses that sit side by side. The other belonged to Worth Ryder, who was another professor at UC Berkeley, and together they kind of built these studios, and invited all their colleagues, Ansel Adams, Chirio Obata, and they made Point Richmond an epicenter for a very bohemian intellectual artistic community. And since these houses were built in 32, they were really some of the earlier modernist houses on the bay side of the hill in Point Richmond, and kind of started this whole little enclave of both modernist architecture and kind of an artistic community. So these are the two houses from the bay side. The one on the left belonged to Worth Ryder, and the one on the right is John Haley's. The Haley one, they used to look identical. The Haley one had an addition on the rear, but that is also significant. As Michelle mentioned, it was done in 1949 by a significant architect, Roger Lee. And it served as a living room and a salon and an art gallery because the Haleys did have a large collection of art that they brought to Point Richmond from around the world. And that's kind of where they showed it off and where many of the gatherings of they and their artistic colleagues happened. There's John Haley, and he also did many portrayals of the house in his own art. So there's multiple examples of the studio house being shown in his particular style. He is credited with introducing the Berkeley School style of modernism to the Bay Area. He had studied in Europe with Hans Hofmann and in Minnesota for a while. There was a very traditional style of art that was evolving into modernism. It was very different on the East Coast, and Haley and his colleagues really revolutionized it on the West Coast, and that's what became the Berkeley School. So it was representational. It started to merge into abstraction after a while, but it was very distinct from art elsewhere in the world at that point. These are just some pictures of the rear of the house shortly after it was built, before the addition was put on. Monica Haley's in the picture on the right. That was John's wife. Yes?
When you're saying rear of the house,
Yeah.
are you talking oceanside or street side?
Bayside, yeah,
Okay.
which technically is west, I guess, west-ish. Yeah, the water side. So this was before the addition was put on. John Haley actually, you can see in the photo, there's kind of a mural on the wall. He actually integrated the house into his work at certain points. There's also a mural around the fireplace on the interior, which is kind of tried to have gone under restoration. It's partially revealed at this point. It's very Depression era, kind of New Deal era art style. So he was into experimenting and using the walls of the house actually in his own art. This is a picture of mainly the Roger Lee edition, which is also on the rear of the house, the bay side. And the interior there on the lower right, they're sitting in kind of the gallery space, and that's where they exhibited all their art. I should note that Monica was an arts administrator in the Richmond Unified School District, so she was significant in her own right in that she collected children's art during World War II, and I believe the Richmond Museum now holds a huge collection of that art that she brought together and studied. This is a picture on the left of the studio space from the interior. The big northern exposure window brought in light for painting. And that was something that Haley and Worth Ryder had observed in Europe, studio spaces there. I think we noted that the designer of the house was unknown in talking to the Haley's family friend and gallerist who actually lived in the house later. He said that they just built it on their own. So it was a vernacular building that they built and designed based on their experience with studio spaces in Europe. And there's another picture on the right from 36 of the house from the street. And I think that's it. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them. Otherwise, thanks for listening.
Great, thank you very much. Does anyone have a question?
I do. Thanks for the presentation. Thanks for kind of uncovering all this great information about this house. It's a particular interest of mine. I live in the Point, and the mid-century modern aspect of the Point, I think, is a little bit undersung, and it's nice to bring that forward. I did have a question that you answered, which was, why is the applicant doing this effort to create an overlay district on their house? Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, Joy and David are here. They can chime in if they'd like, but they both work. David's an artist, and Joy works in the museum industry. They have a great appreciation for John Haley and his work, and I think they bought this house knowing some of its history and feeling a responsibility to preserve it.
So if and when it is sold to a different owner, they will need to abide by landmark considerations.
Yeah. I don't
in the
think
future.
they have any intention of selling it.
Yeah,
But,
no,
you know,
but
in
who knows what will
perpetuity,
happen.
yes, it will be subject to CEQA regulations and the stricter environmental review that provides.
And my second question was, why not both houses? They're obviously twins.
Yeah, they're under separate ownership, and the other owner was not interested in nominating at the time. In my experience, there have been other instances of twin houses where only one half is nominated, and I've actually talked to SHPO at one point, Office of Historic Preservation, at the state level, and they said they've seen that happen. So it's unfortunate. It would be nice to have them done as a pair, but yeah, technically not required.
Great, thank you. But I guess a general question maybe for Michelle or others, but the landmark overlay district, this is actually it's an overlay that can be applied to a single parcel. And has that been done in the Point? I know there's a historic district on one side of the hill. Has there been other buildings landmarked in the Point? I'm curious. Or anywhere in Richmond?
My understanding, there are other landmarks. Most of them are in historic districts, but, you know, the code allows for you to do it this way. So it's perfectly fine. It's a little odd, you know, because you have to walk a few blocks to get to the historic district, but it's, you know.
I think that do you know Morris's house all the way at the end of Golden Gate, right by the Chevron? I think that's within that.
I can, for clarification, so the city has historical districts, and then within them historical landmarks, and then subsequently within a historical district you can also have contributing structures. So Point Richmond's historical district has a number of contributing structures which, for the purposes of our zoning code, serve as landmark designations for the preservation of each unit. And then as you move further through recognition by the state and the federal government, it kind of changes a little bit in terms of those protections, but generally speaking, we do have a number of districts throughout the city of Richmond. It doesn't necessarily mean that all of the contributing structures or places are within the exact geographical boundary. An example would be Rosie the Riveter and its relationship to the Kaiser Shipyard Hospital, both a part of the same national but in separate locations. As we work actually with the HPC, we will be bringing forward a brand new, fully updated GIS map of all of the historical sites and landmarks and points within Richmond as a part of an item that was brought forward by Councilmember Bana and Councilmember Robinson. And so that will be brought forward to HPC actually next month. And so we'll continue to share that and engage with the public on the storytelling of Richmond's history.
Will that come to the Planning Commission?
I will not come to you, but I can certainly send you an email informing you of that document and the final product.
Just to circle back to this project, this property, it will be its own landmark overlay district, and this structure will be contributing to that district? Is that kind of how it would be looked at?
Effectively, yes. It's just the way that our code allows you to preserve and establish. Again, the goal being, if it's protected and on the registry and noticed, and the landmark is of this nature, there are certain CEQA protections that kick in now that weren't otherwise in place. And so it'll be actually quite common, I think, in the future that we see more items come before this board to preserve homes or sites in order to preserve them under CEQA's, kind of evolving law.
Well, go
Well,
ahead.
is there a map or in the upcoming event you're talking about? Will that involve a map, or is there a map now?
There's not a map now, but the upcoming event will be a fully virtual interactive GIS map. And so this parcel, if brought forward to council and approved, would then land on that map, and then it would be designated and recorded as a deed against the property in perpetuity.
What final comment? Just an editorial. I look forward to the time when there is a historic district designation put on much of the property on the ocean side of the ridge. I think it's totally appropriate to look at that as its own historic district, separate from, in addition to, the existing historic district on the village side. So anyways, those were my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Are there any other questions? Okay, then I will, well, is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this project? Anyone online? Okay, seeing no one, then I'll close the public hearing. And I'd just like to commend the owners for moving forward on this. The town where I lived previously, Redlands, had about 8 historic districts and had hundreds of houses like this designated. And I think it's a fabulous step that you're taking to, move Richmond and its history forward. So I'm very supportive of this effort. If there's no other comments, we're ready for a motion, I believe.
Do you want to make it?
If I can read that, I'll see if I can read it. I move that we adopt the attached resolution number 1, recommending that the City Council approve the proposed rezoning to add the L Landmark Overlay District to the RL1 Base Zone District to the John Haley Studio House located at 771 Ocean Avenue, Richmond, California, for the purpose of listing the property on the Richmond Historic Register.
I'll take roll.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Okay, have a roll call vote, please.
Chair Harrison?
Yes.
Vice Chair Burbaker?
Yes.
Secretary Timmons?
Yes.
Great. Motion approved. Congratulations. We look forward to hearing all about your house. Okay, we're ready to go on to item number 3. And this is the annual presentation by Chevron about their modernization project. And this is not a public hearing, so it's just a presentation, and I'm happy to have that move forward.
Good evening, Planning Commission. Avery Stark, Planning Manager, assisting in the bringing forward the annual modernization report of Chevron. I am joined by Ms. Manzano. She is the representative of Bramble, who has been providing us with the continued monitoring of this project since its inception. She is here to give a brief presentation to you, and at the end, if you have any questions, please feel free to let us know. But this, again, is not a public hearing. There's no decision that you will need to make on this item. It is just to receive a report.
Great. Good evening. So I am Sarah Manzano from Ramble, and today we're going to talk about the annual compliance report associated with the Chevron Refinery Modernization Project. And this is based on reporting year 2024, so compliance for 2024. So the recommended action today is to receive the staff and consultant presentation of the Modernization Project's annual compliance report and receive and provide comments on the annual compliance report. So before we go into the annual compliance report, just taking a step back on what the modernization project is or was. The modernization project consists of the new construction of the new hydrogen plant and collection of new equipment improvements that remove naturally occurring sulfur contained in feedstocks processed at the facility, including modifications to the refinery's existing sulfur recovery units. The project also includes infrastructure improvements to facility piping, utility lines, and electrical systems. The project also includes project design features and mitigation measures to achieve no net increase in criteria air pollutants, toxic air contaminants, and greenhouse gas emissions, which we'll get into more later. So setting the stage, this is the refinery site. Here, the areas specifically associated with the modernization project are called out, including construction zones. So the annual compliance report is a requirement of the conditional use permit. So in 2014, the city certified an EIR and the conditional use permit associated with the modernization project. The conditional use permit requires that every year after the first full year of project construction, Chevron submit to the city an annual compliance report documenting compliance with the conditions of approval in the CUP and mitigation measures in the EIR. And this is the 8th annual compliance report on the modernization projects, which again covers 2024. And there was no construction associated with the project in 2024, which we'll talk about more later. Then here you can see a link to where this year's report and all previous reports are shared online. So as part of the annual compliance report, there are various agencies and individuals that contribute and evaluate compliance. These include City of Richmond Fire Department, Contra Costa Health, City of Richmond Community Development Department, environmental consultants such as myself, Bay Area Air Quality Management District, and City of Richmond Public Works Engineering Capital Improvement Projects. So there are 4 phases of compliance, which we'll talk about more later. There's pre-construction, which is complete, construction, which is mostly complete, pre-operations, which are complete, and operations, which are ongoing. So going into construction, there was no construction associated with the modernization project in 2024. Most recently in 2023, all of the instrumentation and electrical equipment located at the old hydrogen plant was removed, and projects associated with the modernization project that have not been completed yet is a fluid catalytic cracker feed hydrotreater and further dismantling of the old hydrogen plant. Of note, but not relevant to 2024, is the initial modernization project construction term ended April 3rd, 2025. However, Chevron provided written notification to the city to use its one-time automatic 2-year extension, and the new construction term will end April 3rd, 2027. So for construction, all obligations are met and verified by the compliance team. Chevron will continue to submit quarterly reports until the project construction term is complete. Chevron tracks emissions when there is construction activity using the emissions module created by Ramble, which we review and evaluate. Other examples of parts of the quarterly report include construction management standards and construction worker training and a summary of those emissions. Attachments 1 and 2 of the annual report include the MMRP and conditions of approval and a summary of Chevron's compliance. And because there was no construction in 2024, there are no construction-related emissions reported. Moving on to operations, 2024 was the first full year of operations for the new hydrogen plant and sulfur recovery improvements, and it's the 6th annual report addressing operational requirements. And all the obligations of 2024 were met and verified. And so getting into some of the emissions, there were no net increase in criteria air pollutants, which are carbon monoxide, NOx, particulate matter, and reactive organic compounds, and no net increase in toxic air contaminant emissions. Emissions are tracked based on an operational emissions tool created by Ramble that is verified, that we review and verify every year. The Bay Area Air District has a separate emissions inventory as part of their regulatory process that the Bay Area Air District reviews and evaluates as well. There was also no physical increase in greenhouse gas emissions compared to the baseline. And similar to the Bay Area emissions inventory, the California Air Resources Board verifies greenhouse gas emissions for their inventory as well. In the EIR, the MMRP requires additional mitigation when facility utilization reaches 93%, and in 2024, the utilization was 84%. So that additional mitigation was not triggered. And so here's a summary of what the 2024 emissions are compared to baseline. So you can see in the first column the different pollutants, criteria air pollutants, and greenhouse gas emissions. The second column shows the 2024 actual emissions as estimated in the operational emissions tracking tool. The third column shows the baseline emissions in the EIR, and the fourth column shows the comparison, and you can see it's all a reduction. And then you can see the comparison of the utilization to the trigger for additional mitigation. So compliance verification. Compliance for ongoing limited construction activities and tracked and submitted quarterly, as mentioned previously. Operations is tracked through this annual compliance report and the mitigation measures and conditions of approval, as mentioned in attachments 1 and 2 of the report. And the city contracted with Ramble to review and verify compliance, which includes reviews of the annual report, meetings with Chevron, review of emissions estimates and calculations, and cross-checking emissions data with BAQMD flare monitoring data. And so jumping into the flare notifications, the refinery is required to notify the city of hydrogen plant flaring events greater than 50,000 standard cubic feet. And the city has verified that BAQMD also receives the flaring notifications as required by their regulations. And here's a link to where all the flaring notifications are kept online. And the city has concluded that the hydrogen plant flaring events are being monitored and regulated by BAQMD, including root cause and corrective action. Further, Chevron prepared a flare prevention and minimization assessment report as part of a 2024 settlement agreement with BAQMD. As part of that settlement agreement, there's a comprehensive analysis of the causes and contributing factors to reportable flaring events from 2018 to 2024. And areas of improvement to minimize flaring include hydrogen infrastructure reliability and electrical infrastructure reliability for the hydrogen plant. And Chevron has invested over $20 million to reduce flaring event refinery-wide and reliability issues. So pursuant to the conditional use permit, Chevron submits this annual compliance report, which the Planning Commission reviews at a publicly noticed meeting. Construction of the project is essentially complete, and the compliance reporting is much more streamlined. Therefore, staff proposes that the Planning Commission hold a public hearing meeting every 3 years as opposed to every year unless staff determines a meeting is warranted in an unscheduled year. Chevron will still submit its compliance report to the city for annual review, and it will still be posted online. So future actions is Chevron will continue to prepare an annual compliance report and submit it to the city by September 1st of each year. And certain obligations that have been fulfilled will be removed to streamline the report for clarity and succinctness. And again, this year's report and previous reports can be found at the link shown here. And with that, I open it to questions.
Okay, thank you for that report. Anybody have any questions for the presenter? Or I imagine we have some representatives from Chevron here. I don't know if they wish to speak to the item. That would certainly welcome to, or they're welcome just to look around. I don't think, did you have any questions?
Yeah, I do too, but I'm wondering if there's any public comment, because I would like to hear public comment.
Well, why don't we hear from this gentleman's kind of
Yeah.
from Chevron.
Good evening, Chair Harrison and fellow commissioners. I'm Jeff Braun, Business Improvement Manager of one of the operating divisions for Chevron Richmond. I'm joined by my colleagues today, Brandon Sutter, Modernization Compliance Specialist, Chris Battleston, our Health, Safety, and Environmental Manager, and Brian Hubbinger, our Public Affairs Manager. Over a decade ago, Chevron and the City of Richmond found common ground in a shared vision that included reliable operations, emissions reductions, job creation, economic development, and opportunities for the future. The modernization project was that common ground. With 5 full years in the operations phase of the project, Chevron has stayed well below the emissions commitments of no net increase in criteria air pollutants, no net increase in health risks from toxic air contaminants, and no physical increase in greenhouse gas emissions over the baseline emissions established for the project. The approval of the modernization project and associated Environmental and Community Investment Agreement, or ECIA, has enabled a reduction in emissions from our Richmond facility while positioning us for safely and reliably producing the energy needed for California families, which includes 60% of the Bay Area airports and 20% of the gasoline used in Northern California. However, it's more than just the products we make. Our operations drive over $1 billion of economic activity in West Contra Costa County alone. We support a workforce of over 3,800 people. These are good paying jobs, many of them union represented that don't require a college degree. Our employee compensation is 56% above regional averages. And for every 10 Chevron Richmond employee jobs, an additional 5 jobs are supported in the region. These are jobs such as those in the service industry and construction. Our investment in the community is also significant, with about 4,100 annual volunteer hours and $52 million donated to nonprofit organizations since 2012. We've taken significant steps to engage with the Richmond community over the last year. We've held 3 public meetings open to the community to discuss our operations, our flaring performance, and any other topics of interest. We've set up a steering committee for those meetings made up of Richmond community leaders, and that has helped shape these engagements, and it brings the community voice to the table. We've brought in experts to talk about community health and the county's community warning system, and we simplified our community communications and created Spanish version language of them as well. Our next meeting should be early this year, and we hope to see some of you there. Overall, I'm proud of all of us at Richmond and what we bring to the Chevron community, and we look forward to working with the city, with labor, and other stakeholders as we shape our shared future together. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here that's wishing to speak on the item? He spoke for all of you, okay? Is there anybody online that has a question or comment? No? That brings it back to you.
Do you want to?
No, go ahead.
So there is a proposed change, which, well, there's been an actual change, which is a 2-year extension has been triggered, I guess, or asked for. So it now means that construction on this project could occur up till mid-2027. Is that correct? Yeah. And yet there's a proposal to not report to the Planning Commission on a yearly basis, but to report on an every 3-year basis. Is that correct? That's the request?
That's correct.
Do you know how many reports have been given to the Planning Commission? I'm a little bit lost. Is it 10? Is it 10 years of reports?
I think it's 8 years.
It's been 8 years? And so, okay. I had one other question about the flaring report. I'm curious whether there was more flaring this year than in previous years. There wasn't really any information in your presentation about whether that is trending upward or downward or staying steady.
From our review of the flaring data, it's trended down. I think there were, actually here, I think, do I still have the slides? Oh. There were, let's see, I have that information. There were 11 flaring events in 2024 compared to 25 in 2023. So it was a trend downwards between the two.
Okay, great, thank you.
Is the closing of the refinery in Martinez going to change the capacity expectation for this refinery? Yeah, that's for you guys. I mean, in other words, are you going to be expected to do more? Do you expect to do more as a result of the loss of that capacity?
I think the question is around the pending idling of the Valero refinery in Benicia, not Martinez, correct?
Yeah, not Martinez.
Well, you know, I think the simple way to put it is we have very strict limits even associated with this project, and we can't go over those. So there's still a very strong demand for gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel in California. We predict that to be the case for some time. We'll continue to, currently and into the future, make those fuels for people, and we're looking to do that in the making the fuels of today cleaner and better each and every day. So that's modernization was a big part of that. The short answer is we don't, unless we get a permit change, we can't produce more than.
The answer is no.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, I think we ought to follow up on Mr. Brubaker's question about if there is going to be construction in the next 3 years, within the next 3 years. Should we hear about, how would we hear about that if we are not supposed to hear one of these compliance reports until after that would have occurred? What is the, either staff or the consultant's thought on? Yeah, well, you certainly.
Well, maybe I can expand on that a little bit. I mean, clearly it's a not an inexpensive effort to put together a presentation and come to the Planning Commission every year. Especially in past years, it's been kind of a check the box kind of thing. I wonder if there's some way, and I'm not averse to a presentation every three years, personally. I wonder if there's some way to have a condition that says, I know this isn't subject to approval, but maybe my recommendation would be that if construction does proceed, because it's optional construction, as I understand it, and if construction does proceed, that then a report should be made to Planning Commission. And if construction does not proceed, revert to a 3-year presentation schedule. So that's what I was thinking could address the issue. Thanks.
That sounds like a good approach. Is that something that works for city staff? Uh-oh.
It's not a voting item. It's just to receive a report. So this is not something to.
Yeah, we're not voting, but we're kind of giving staff direction without making motions and seconds, but.
Presumably, it's the city and Chevron who come to an agreement about the presentation schedule to the commission. So maybe we're giving a recommendation to the city here?
Yeah, so the requirement for the presentation schedule is a part of the conditional use permit, which was then to be brought back to this commission every year, 1 year post their construction. And because, as you noted, the report is generally and has continued to be very consistent. It shows and demonstrates a decrease year over year. Was of our opinion that in efforts of, being more streamlined with our processes and our time, that we would revert to a 3-year schedule of bringing a presentation to this commission. We've identified in what the language of that modified condition that we would, in the event that there was a change that had occurred on the annual report that we will still get, it will still be reviewed by Rambo, it will still be posted online, that we would bring an item back to this commission to receive a presentation if there was an update or a change from the baseline.
So you're basically covering the question we're asking you.
Yes, we have covered the question and the concern in the modification and the discussions that we're having with Chevron. Yes.
Okay. Our question is answered.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other questions or comments from the commission, I thank the representatives from Chevron for being here and from their environmental consultant. It's always good to hear what's going on over there and the progress you're continuing to make to keep the pollutants or potential pollutants under control. And that's important to our community, believe me. Okay, are we done with this item? I think so. Okay, we're on to item 4. If I can find it. Okay, this is a tentative parcel map filing, number PLN 24-357. Is this a presentation by staff?
Good evening, Commissioners. Amy Stark, Planning Manager for the City of Richmond. I will be presenting on tonight's project. You received there at the dais, also included in the public hearing public packet, a revised set of revised resolution from the posted resolution. There was a singular red line that was kept under the letter R for Richmond on condition number 8. And the misspelling of the word condominium was doubled up. And so I've highlighted those textual errors for you for your consideration to understand what changes have been made. Just a moment here, I'll get this presentation up and running. All right. Tonight I'll be presenting on PLN 24357, which is a request for a tentative parcel map. Just as a bit of a project overview, again, tentative parcel map PLN 24357 for a home currently located, and still located at 815 24th Street, APN 528-240-008. The subject is effectively a subdivision of one parcel into two equal parcels. No new construction or no increased density will result as a part of this action. For some site context, the site here is highlighted in blue with the APN. The current zoning is a part of our form-based code, T4 Neighborhood 35. General plan description is a low-density residential. And the current project is developing, has developed with an existing duplex on the site. And this is within an established residential neighborhood within the city of Richmond. For project details here on the right, you will see the proposed tentative parcel map. The existing parcel is 7,351 square feet. The proposed subdivision would result in two parcels, A and B, of equal size at 3,675 and 53. It would still then be a one dwelling unit per parcel. In terms of CEQA and environmental review, this type of project action is categorically exempt from CEQA Section Guidelines 15315 as a part of a minor land subdivision, and so no environmental impact is identified as a result of this action. Just a little bit on the key issues that I want to call to your attention that were outlined again in the staff report. And really fully addressed in the condition of approval is the separation of utilities. The existing duplex currently shares some utility infrastructure, which is common for multiple units of a single parcel. However, once land is subdivided into two separate legal parcels or multiple separate legal parcels, shared utilities create cross-parcel dependency that are inconsistent with the intent of land subdivision. So requiring independent utility service ensures that each parcel can function autonomously for ownership purposes, financing, maintenance, billing, in the event of code enforcement, and it avoids the creation of any implied easements or future disputes between two separate owners. So importantly, why does the city require utility separation? And so the Subdivision Map Act establishes that subdivisions create independent legal parcels. Requiring separate utilities ensures each parcel functions independently for ownership. And for the above reasons, the financing, billing, and maintenance of those two individual parcels. This is a reasonable and standard condition of approval to ensure the subdivision operates as intended. Go on to talk a little bit about the applicant at time of application had indicated an express interest in doing a condo conversion. And although the applicant expressed this interest in the condominium conversion, no condominium conversion application was formally submitted. And even if one had been submitted, staff considered that approach under Richmond Municipal Code Section 1504-711.020, which explicitly prohibits condominium conversions for fewer than 5 units. Because this project involves only 2 dwelling units, it does not qualify for condominium conversion approval. And therefore, the Planning Commission cannot approve the project as a condominium conversion. And the resolution includes the denial of that informal request that the applicant has made. A little bit about the findings, which you will see in the staff report and outlined in the resolution. Staff has evaluated this tentative parcel map against the findings required under the Subdivision Map Act and the Richmond Municipal Code. The project is consistent with the general plan, zoning. The site's physically suitable for the proposed development and density. There are no public health or environmental impacts to be associated. And the subdivision will not conflict with any current public easements that lie on and around the property. Speak a little bit here about the conditions of approval. Again, they're intended to ensure that the subdivision is implemented as reviewed, as approved. These include requirements for substantial conformance with the approved tentative parcel map recordation within 24 months with the county. Clarification that no additional subdivision or merger is authorized with part of that action, and that the requirement for separate utility services for each parcel. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission open the public hearing, take public testimony, and adopt resolution number 2601 approving the tentative parcel map MS 5755-20, except for the utility easement, subject to the conditions of approval contained in the resolution, and denies the applicant's informal request for an approval of a condominium conversion. I am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for staff?
I do, I always have a question.
Of course, that's why you're here.
The applicant is the owner of both units, right? I mean, this is currently a single property, so there's one owner. The owner is interested in subdividing and I suppose potentially selling one of the sides off. That would be my assumption about what is happening. I went by today. They're doing a great job of rehabbing their project. It looks really nice. I did note that the electrical utility is shared and comes into one unit, one side. So presumably electrical would need to be split up and brought independently to the other unit. Are there other utilities that have issues as gas and electrical and sewer also?
Yes, so all utilities that serve the site currently are obviously shared as it is a duplex, and as a part of a condition of approval, the requirement to produce separate independent utilities for the newly created parcel would be a requirement in order to proceed with the recordation and a final map. So yes, each home would have its own running power, water, sewer, gas, if there was, electricity, cable, internet, other services to each individual parcel so that they can function individually from each other.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, let me open the public hearing. There's no one here in the auditorium. Is there anyone online that wishes to speak on this item?
Yes, we have one person raising their hand.
Okay, let's.
We just asked them to unmute themselves so they can start speaking.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. I'm a resident here in the Northeast neighborhood, a couple houses down from the parcel that you're talking about. To my understanding, it sounds like there is not an approval of a condominium. So I guess this is more of just a comment. This neighborhood is one of those neighborhoods, built post-war where they were not expecting families to have more than one car, maybe two max. So it is a pretty congested area. So hearing that there was potential for a condo makes it really unsettling because it's already a fight for parking. People block people's driveways. So it's just more of a general comment for those kind of changes into permits between single family homes and condominiums. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else online that wants to comment? Then I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for action on the item. Any discussion before that? I think we've had our discussion, but.
I don't know who wants to make a motion.
Yeah.
Share the duty. You guys.
Okay, I move a resolution of the Planning Commission to approve a tentative parcel map, file number PLN 24-357, to subdivide one existing parcel into 2 parcels of equal size.
May I, for the record, may I have you please read the recommended action on the screen verbatim?
Oh, on the screen?
Yes.
It's not there.
It's not there? Oh, if KCRT could please
I'm reading this.
present my screen. Yes, there we
Oh,
go.
there, okay.
That one, thank you.
Adopt resolution number 26-01, approving planning application number PLN 24-357, granting approval of tentative parcel map MS 755-20, except for the utilities easement, subject to the conditions of approval contained in the resolution, and denies the applicant's informal request for approval of a condominium conversion.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Chair Harrison,
Yes.
Vice Chair Burbaker,
Yes.
Secretary Timmons.
Yes.
Okay, that item is approved. Moving on is commission business. Anyone have a report?
I do not.
Okay. Is there any report we need from any staff member? If not,
No urgent reports. As you are aware, we've continued to have a number of items be required to be presented to the Planning Commission, so still continually actively working with the mayor's office and the city manager to find additional commissioners to join your board to ensure quorum at all times. So this would be my ask again, if you know anybody who you'd like to recommend to join the commission, please send them my way. I'd be certainly willing to sit down and talk to anyone who has an interest in serving the public in this capacity. In addition to that, we will be, next meeting will be February 5th. We have a total of 3 items for that evening. There will be 3 residential projects. One will be Marina Point, second will be Cascade Townhomes, and the third will be the project on Canal off of Seacliff Drive. And we can discuss separately the implications of potential recusal in the future, as I know board members live within close proximity of that project site. So I'll convene with you separately to determine how to proceed. We'll measure, don't worry, we'll take care of that. But I'll work with the city attorney's office to.
yeah, they figured out last time this thing came up, I was good, so. Okay. Are you continuing to pursue the idea of combining commissions?
Yes, we are continuing to pursue the idea of combining commissions. I did get a further direction from the city manager's office and the mayor. We will be bringing forward an executive type memo that will be prepared by Lisa Wise Consulting to look at the upfront kind of existing conditions, possible solutions, and what it would look like to combine and condense the board into one. It'd be an item that we would bring before you kind of as a study session probably in the next 2 months, so that you have an opportunity and the public has an opportunity to understand the direction we're going in, why we would be doing this, what the implications are for projects in terms of who would hear them, what items would maybe once be heard by the design review that would then only be heard by the zoning administrator. And again, it's a fairly comprehensive code update to make that happen, so it would take about 8 months to come to its realization. But we do believe that it would be in the best interest of the city and for city business and for residents to have a consolidated and condensed board. And again, that would create one board that would have a total of about 7 members or more, and that would also ensure kind of a consistent quorum and then the potential for standby or rotational options for commissioners. So I'll be sure to bring that back, I would imagine, in March. Yeah, we should be able to bring that back as like a study item.
Do they have the same issues having people show up? Or?
They have similar, they're a smaller board, but it is still of a concern that one person not attending does make the difference in a quorum. And as you've experienced, we were unable to have 2 meetings in a row, which does then delay business of the city. And so the goal is to be able to be efficient with our time. So going forward for the rest of this year, we are, looking at just having the one identified meeting as required by the bylaws for the Planning Commission. The second meeting, if necessary, would be a special meeting as we would normally agendize it. But we do have a number of projects in the queue right now that will be requiring, both Design Review Board and Planning Commission's approval from a use permits perspective, subdivision of land, and a few other, fairly routine but requiring still the Planning Commission's consideration in order for them to move forward. So I anticipate that the rest of this year we'll continue to have consistent meetings, ideally every month. And in months that we may not have as many items, I would take it as an opportunity to do some education. I'd like to do an update, legislative update for this board with all of the new laws that have come out in the past cycle and things that have become effective today or beginning of January, things that impact the commission, impact staff and our ability to review, and just so you're aware of, things that have changed in the world of CEQA and the world of permit streamlining and the work that we do on a daily basis.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I look forward to that presentation when you can fit it in. It sounds like you guys are busy.
Yeah,
if there's nothing else, then I guess I can go. I will adjourn the meeting at 7:52. Thank you all very much for coming.
Thank you all.